I hopped onto the PowerWash Simulator train very early on in its life cycle. Checking my Steam purchase history, I actually acquired the game way back in June 2021. June 11th to be exact, which was less than a month after it was released in early access. Needless to say, I've been around for the long haul, and yet it took me a while to finish the game. Through the early access period, I frequently returned to check out the new and added content, and when it finally hit 1.0, I did return to play semi-regularly. I played through the whole base game, and I added and played through DLC content now and again as it released too, though I was notably less immediate with this stuff. Hell, it hit a point where I think I spent like a year and a half in between playing it from late 2023 until early 2025, maybe with just a brief spurt in 2024 that I came back for a DLC or something. I intended to finish the game and play the rest of its DLC content in 2025 when it came to pass that PowerWash Simulator 2 was coming out, but I kind of ran out of time to do much of anything through most of last year, so that ended up actually happening in early February 2026 instead. Over the course of nearly 5 years now, I put about 150 hours into the game. Perhaps a little bit more than that, depending on how much time it spent open and idle in the background at various points, but overall 150 to 160 hours. I've got all of the achievements, I've completed every career and bonus job, I did the seasonal jobs as well, though those don't really save the same way as the rest for some reason, and I of course also completed every job of every DLC, both of the Muckingham Files variety and of the many IP crossovers the devs did. As somebody who has been around since early access and having spanned my time over such a long time, what do I have to say about the game that isn't already known? Well, nothing, really, but before I moved on to the now not so new release of PowerWash Simulator 2 for my brain off relaxation game, I wanted to make sure I finished the original. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what this game was for me. One that I could completely turn my brain off for and listen to music or a podcast or a live stream or otherwise watch videos on the other monitor. For that purpose, there's hardly anything more enjoyable than PowerWash Simulator as a pastime, and that was the case from the very start. I can still recall late 2021 watching Dead Silent on Discovery Plus while I played career path content updates of the game. I can recall points of 2023 watching live performances of random music artists, mostly Electric Callboy, while I finished the campaign and started tackling a couple of the earlier DLC drops. I certainly reflect on watching parts of 2025's March Madness tournament while playing through later DLC drops, like the Warhammer one, especially coming to mind because of how tedious some of those jobs were. And I also now reflect more recently upon finally finishing up whatever I had left over while just catching up on a bunch of like Smitty videos I had missed, that kind of thing. Needless to say, there's a lot to the experience that is PowerWash Simulator that makes it clear why it was just such a hit, even amongst simulator games. Often this genre can be filled with subpar memes, janky messes, and generally who the fuck is actually playing this type of stuff. But it turns out that cleaning is pretty satisfying, or at least witnessing something that has been made clean is. And a satisfying ding to mark traceable portions of progress makes it even more so, and more encouraging to actually do the process. The mindlessly therapeutic sound of the power washer itself is a subtle bolstering of all of that. As an entire package, PowerWash Simulator just hits all the right notes and exists not as a canvas to paint, but as one to reveal, oddly enough. As a game, there's not much to say because it's fairly simple and obvious. You clean the thing, you hear the ding, repeat until the job is done. Bing, bang, boom, simple gameplay loop. There are a few attachments that are useful for different things, though the most OP one, maybe the only one that I use in the only footage I captured of the game specifically for this video, is basically the only right answer for like 90% or more of every job. But thankfully, that takes a while to unlock, otherwise it'd have trivialized most of the game. But beyond the attachments, you also have things like soap spray options, which are a little bit goofy in this game, admittedly. PowerWash Simulator 2 apparently reworks the soap system entirely and is the main reason that it's a separate game. I'm guessing that making the change in the soap in the first game wasn't something they could do for technical reasons or something along those lines. There is technically a story going on in here as well, and although it's sometimes fun to read the messages that pop up for entertainment purposes, I can't say I really cared about that very much myself. It's certainly not very forefront in the first place. The gameplay is the main reason to pick this up, for satisfaction and ease. In a way, the game made for an experience that was strangely cathartic over time for me, looking back on it. Recently, that meant dealing with some recent anxieties and other stuff going on in my head that I wanted to escape but couldn't. Tackling those things while I finished the game gave me an avenue of control that I still held over something while I talked myself through the problems, grounding me in a reality that kept me from spiraling totally out of control. But on the whole, between relaxation and grounding, between mindless entertainment and catharsis, between standard vehicles and homes and completely alien spaces and other worlds from DLC packs, PowerWash Simulator provides a rich bag of content to work through at whatever pace you want. The game is inviting and at times addicting, but it never pressures you. The irony in that sentence just clicked on me as I read it from my script right now. But that's one of the things that made it memorable for me as a collective experience. I was able to take several months or more off at a time at various points, despite still having things to do in the game, because it wasn't something I really needed to come back to, but it was something I wanted to come back to, and at multiple points, it invited me back with open arms. Even as I changed as a person, and even as the game did, whether it be with tweaks to systems throughout early access or simply content additions and DLC packs over a couple of years after its 1.0 release, PowerWash Simulator managed to be not just a game that I played, nor one I just completed. It was an experience that honestly kind of centralizes no small amount of my gaming life. Multiple versions of me have played this game. The one that had just started a new job and was still in the middle of college work when it was in early access. The one that was finally finishing up college and really coming into my own at work when it was in 1.0 and getting its first extra content drops. The one that felt pretty comfortable in his skin and was seeing all the things that he could be when the paid DLC packs were just starting to happen, and also the one that had been through one of the craziest years of his life when he finally finished everything the game had to offer. In a weird way, it feels wrong that my time with this game is over. True, I haven't done much of the challenge stuff in it, as I don't really care for the stress or focus that having limited time or water would add to the game. The only challenges I did were for achievement purposes, but I've done everything else. In the grand scheme of things, I didn't put that much time into this game. 150 hours over 5 years is certainly not a ton, but a big part of my early adulthood, several years of it, has nonetheless come to a close with it, and that is a strangely bittersweet thing to realize. Perhaps PowerWash Simulator 2 will come to be a manner of centering in the next stage of my life, but only time will tell.